Good afternoon, it's John Heaton, and today I'm going to take an idea which I actually got from James Griffiths. He was going to do his top 10 or 15 album openers, tracks opening Beatles solo albums, and discussed it with me briefly a few weeks ago. And I had a go at doing that, and then I thought, well, why don't I come up with my all-time favourite album openers? So it's from his idea, and I did come up with my top 15 solo Beatles opening tracks, but I'll let James do his video first if he posts it, and then I'll let you know what I came up with. But I came up with a list of my top. I ended up with 12 on my final list, and I went for tracks which are a bit of a knockout when you put on the album versus kind of mood pieces which take a bit of getting into. For example, Funeral for a Friend, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, or Shine On You Crazy Diamond, Wish You Were Here, both great opening tracks, but they didn't make the cut because I was going for the kind of 1-2 punch. I also decided to limit it to one per artist, which made it probably more interesting. Otherwise I would have ended up with, 4 from Beatles related and 4 from Stones or something like that. Anyway, a couple of ones which were bubbling under, which didn't make the list. Superstition, the lead-off track from Talking Book. What a great way to kick off that album. Kodachrome from Paul Simon, fantastic way to kick off. There Goes Rhyming Simon from 73. Rock and Roll Damnation is a fine opening track for Powerage, but the reason it didn't make the cut is because when I bought the album in the UK, Rock and Roll Damnation wasn't even on the album, and it was opened with Gimme a Bullet. And there's only the European copies I got to know later which had included the single as a lead-off track. I would have maybe included Back in Black as the lead-off track from Back in Black AC/DC, but of course it's not. But you may have remembered the story I told when I got it back from the record shop. I put on the wrong side as side 1, and so first of all was introduced to the album through Back in Black, which is probably my favourite track on the whole album, whereas in actual fact I should have put on Hell's Bells, which opened side 1 and is also a memorable opening track, but not as memorable as the title track. And of course Highway to Hell, the t-shirt I'm wearing, is a fantastic opening track from AC/DC. That very nearly made the cut. So I'm going to start off at number 12. We're going to go with the lead-off track from Voulez-Vous, which is possibly my favourite ABBA album. It's a fantastic opener, as good as new, with the strings at the beginning, and then it goes into this disco funk rhythm, and the girls are singing it very well. There's a very infectious chorus and a lovely kind of middle 8 bit in the middle where Agneta is like reaching some very high notes. Just everything about this song is a masterpiece, and I think it's a tremendous way to start that particular album. Number 11. I'm going to go with the lead-off track from this album, 1970. Voulez-Vous was 79, by the way, so this is the Derek and the Dominoes, Layla and All Other Assorted Love Songs, and I've always thought that I Looked Away is just a superb way to start the album. Maybe it's not the rockiest track on the album, but it's just got an immense sense of musicianship and melody, and I love Clapton singing along with Bobby Whitlock, and it's just a track to die for. I've always thought it's one of the highlights of the entire album. Number 10 we're going to go with, sorry I haven't got the record to show you, it's the lead-off track from Scary Monsters from David Bowie, 1980, and the fantastic, mesmerising It's No Game, Part 1, and there's a female vocalist singing in Japanese along with David singing this tortured vocal, and superb musicianship from this band. As I've said before, I think this band in this period was top-notch, and I think he achieved his best image and his best music in this period, station to station through to this album, and I think that is a fantastic song to play loud and play it loud. Now we're going to go with the opening track from a New World Record from ELO, and the fantastic Tightrope. It does start off fairly slowly, but I just had to include this because those cellos may start off slow, but then it gradually, the drums come in from Bev Bevan and the lead guitar, and you're suddenly it's turned into a rocker with these gorgeous strings accompanying it. I just always thought it's an absolutely brilliant way to start an album, and I think I'm not alone in thinking that. Number 8, we're going to go with Lou Reed and the fantastic opener to New York. This is my box set, which came out a few years ago and was quite reasonably priced, actually. And Romeo Had Juliet just sets the tone for the album. I think it's the best song on the album, and I just love the guitar player here and the drummer and Lou's singing, and the words are captivating as they normally are with Lou Reed, but this album in particular I think is a couple of notches higher than most of his work, and that's why I chose that one. Number 7, we're going to go with the Lindsey Buckingham opening track of Rumours, which is more or less the perfect way to start a pop album like Rumours, which go on to sell millions and millions. Just the kind of chugging guitar and then the drums, and suddenly he's coming in with the vocal, and then that chorus, which I think in the demo versions he's not doing the bam 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 vocal. He's kind of trying something different, and then they must have hit upon that idea, and it just works like a dream. And just tremendous drumming from the rhythm section, drumming and bass from Mick and John as usual. And it's one of Lindsey's strongest songs of his entire career. Number 6, gonna go with Imagine from John Lennon. I just think it's, I can't imagine what it must have been like to buy this album at the time and get it back home and just put it on the turntable, and this track comes up, plays first off, because it wasn't a lead-off single, I don't think. Maybe it got released as a single a bit later, but I think any of you guys who bought it at the time, tell me what it was like to play the song for the very first time, because I would imagine you'd be blown away by it. And I think it's one of those songs which one is still blown away by, even though they've tried to overplay it over the years. It fails to get boring for me. It's just, it's not particularly in line with my other criteria for the 1-2 punch at the beginning of an album, but I just had to include it because it's just such a brilliant opener. Number 5, we're going to go with Dylan and Tangled Up in Blue, the re-recorded version, although this is the original album. Chris McGovern, you were asking about the sleeve notes, the original sleeve notes based on the original New York version of the album with the acoustic versions, but this is the Tangled Up in Blue re-recorded in Minneapolis, and I think it's better. And there's some pretty high competition on this album, but I think Tangled Up in Blue, push comes to shove, is the best track, hence a superb choice to lead off this stupendous album. And just everything about this song, the musicianship, the words, the singing, the story, just absolutely top notch. Number 4, we're going to go with one of Roger Hodgson's most uplifting songs of his entire career, co-written with Rick Davies, as they had a sort of songwriting agreement to give each other co-credit on their songs, but I think they were mostly solo written. Give a little bit. What can you say? Uplifting, spiritual. He really meant every word he sings in this song, and it makes it very special and pretty much timeless. You could be playing this song in 100 years' time and it would have the same kind of impact, I think. I like to think so anyway. Number 3, we've got, going to go with Back in USSR, the lead-off track from the White Album from Paul McCartney, and you know, I think it's a tour de force, considering Ringo had walked out of the band the day before or something. You know, they each sort of did a composite drum part and came up with a very effective drum, and then I think John is playing bass along with George on this song, so that was interesting. I just think this is, I mean, the Beatles have done a lot of great opening tracks, and I could have gone with Taxman or Drive My Car or Come Together, but at the end of the day I went with this because I think this probably just pips the others in terms of being the strongest album opener. Number 2, we're going to go with, so you noticed I did pick a Lennon track and a Beatles track, and I don't think that's cheating because the Beatles track I chose was from McCartney, so I'm still sticking to my one per artist kind of thing. Number 2, we're going to go with the lead-off track from Caribou from 1974, Elton John's The Bitch Is Back. And you know, the rest of the album's pretty good, but what a way to start. And play this one loud, the guitars, and then the bass comes in, and then Elton's singing it just wonderfully, and sing-along chorus. And okay, the rest of the album didn't quite live up to the standard of that song. I know you like it, love it, Thomas Calden. It is a good album, but I think this is the best track, and hence the right choice to lead off with it. So can you guess what is number one? It is Brown Sugar from the Rolling Stones. I know the other day I picked Gimme Shelter as my top Rolling Stones songs, but if I'm going to talk about the ideal track to kick off an album, I really can't put anything above Brown Sugar. That opening riff on the guitar, and then the acoustic guitar comes in behind it, and then Mick starts singing these slurred words, and it's just such a powerful song. And there is a version with Eric Clapton playing on it from '69, but surprisingly enough, that didn't make the cut, and the Stones version is superior. So, Mick Taylor came in and did the guitar. I'm not sure if the Eric Clapton version has Mick Taylor as well, or just Eric along with Keith, but I think this is the definitive version. This was my original copy with the zip, which you can't get very easily anymore. I was reading that they removed the zip because it started to damage the records, because some record stores were storing it sort of in a pile, which is not the way to store records anyway. You should store them vertically, but anyway. So that was the 12 I came up with. Opening tracks, my favourite opening tracks from albums. Probably from my collection, pretty much of all time, because I can't think of any which would be higher than this, which I don't own. So, don't expect you to agree, but if you did, that's good, and if you didn't, that's quite all right. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.